Fridays are awesome, even when they're freezing, which is why we have Flannel Fridays. Earlier this week, we talked about the thermostat setting a new low, 135.8 degrees below zero. That was a temperature reading in Antarctica in 2010, and some researchers say it could be the lowest temperature ever recorded on Earth. Things aren't that cold in the United States, but the winter weather is in full effect. Snow, ice, freezing rain, sleet, and bitter cold. These storms spread across huge parts of the country. They can have a physical impact we all know about, but winter weather can also take a mental toll and an economic one.
Everybody throughout the area is at the freezing mark.
If you thought today was cold,
the next few days are going to be very cold.
Frigid temps gripping the nation as another blast of Arctic air has millions from the Great Lakes to the Northeast waking up in a deep freeze. City after city experiencing temperatures 20 degrees or more below average, the coldest it's gotten in the taste of winter. Forecasters say the Windy City already feeling like its earliest sub-zero temperature since 1995. Earlier this week, morning temps plunged to 6 below zero. It's the same story in frozen Fargo. They've had single-digit temps or below for a full week. New Yorkers bundling up for their morning commute with brutal wind chills that feel like the teens and 20s. Bitter cold temps made fighting this apartment fire in Wisconsin challenging for the firefighters. It's so cold in Wisconsin that a reporter for CNN affiliate WAOW left this banana outside in -2-degree air for just 30 minutes.
So when we come back, we find the banana completely frozen solid. So frozen, in fact, I can actually use it to hammer in this nail.
And in Minnesota, clocking in as one of the coldest spots in America. Hospitals there already preparing for an influx of hypothermia and frostbite cases, and doctors urging people to stay indoors.
As you get colder and colder, your decision making gets worse and worse. The longer you're out, the more damage is done, and it can be fatal.
All right, we've been reporting for a while on political unrest in Ukraine. The country's split between people who want closer ties with the European Union and people who want to be more aligned with Russia. A country's alliances can affect who it trades with and some of the decisions that its government makes. The current unrest started when Ukraine's president rejected a trade agreement with the European Union. But yesterday, President Viktor Yanukovych met with representatives from the EU, and afterward, they said he's changed his mind.
He indicated he still wishes to sign the association agreement with the European Union. From our perspective, we think that's good for this country.
Nothing will be official until President Yanukovych signs the deal, and Commissioner Ashton says the Ukrainian leader still needs to resolve the conflict in his country. Next up today, phones in flight. Should you be able to make a cell phone call on a plane? On our blog a few weeks ago, Dylan said it's a good idea, Rob said no way, and Hannah said yes, but only if research proves it won't cause problems. The big question is, what does the FCC think? The Federal Communications Commission currently has a ban on in-flight cell phone calls. But yesterday, the FCC voted 3-2 to consider lifting that ban. At the same time, the U.S. Transportation Department said it might look into banning cell calls during flights. One thing is for sure in all this issue is dialing up a lot of debate.
We can already connect from almost everywhere, and cell phone calls from cruising altitude may be next. The Federal Communications Commission chairman says the ban on cell phone use on passenger flights is outdated and restrictive, and he's proposing allowing cell phone use above 10,000 feet. The FCC says technology's advanced enough so that cell phone transmissions from the air would no longer interfere with cell towers on the ground. But it's the response from the flying public that's all the buzz.
You can use them almost everywhere else, on buses, on trains, but as for airplanes, there is some pretty stiff resistance to the use of cell phones. Here's passenger Judy Carroll. Judy, what do you think of it?
I think the phone call can wait. I think that, if it's that important, do it before you board the plane. Wait until you land.
You might want to talk the entire flight at a loud voice about every single problem you have in your family, blah, 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 right? So I'm afraid it won't work.
That potential tension between passengers is also a safety hazard, according to the Flight Attendants Union, which is against the idea. They say it's also a security risk.
We have concerns about the ability for those who might wish to do harm to be able to coordinate during a flight or amongst flights.
But some passengers say the ability to communicate trumps all.
There's lots of work that I do that I need to be in touch with people, and the hour and a half that I spend flying between Atlanta and DC, I lose that time.
But at a time when we all face more crowded flights, delays, added charges for bags and meals, be ready to pay more for calls from the air. A consumer advocate says airlines and wireless carriers will pass the costs of installing this capability to you.
You're going to either have to sign up for extra service or you're going to have to pay serious roaming charges, probably in excess of $2 per minute for every phone call you make.
In the air.
In the air.
Or maybe much more. Outside the U.S., where the capability already exists, some customers have been charged $12 a minute. As for the U.S., if the FCC lifts this cell phone ban, it's going to be up to the individual airlines to choose whether to provide cell service to passengers. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
It's time for the shout out. On a baseball field, what shape is home plate? If you think you know it, then shout it out. So is it a pentagon, square, diamond, or rhombus? You've got 3 seconds. Go. Home plate has been a 5-sided shape since 1900. So if you said pentagon, you hit it out of the park. That's your answer, and that's your shout out.
Even though it's a sport with charging, striking, hitting, popping, and slamming, baseball is generally not seen as a contact sport. Except for this. A catcher is positioned in front of home plate. The runner headed for home collides with him, hoping the catcher will drop the ball, allowing the run to score. Major League Baseball is hoping to make this illegal starting next year. Their reasons are clear. Too many guys, both runners and catchers, were getting hurt. Catchers got 10 of the 18 concussions that sent players to the disabled list this year. Buster Posey, who was National League MVP in 2012, missed most of the season in 2011 when a collision broke his leg and tore ligaments in his ankle. The proposed rule change still has to be approved by owners and players, and penalties for breaking it still have to be worked out. And it has its critics, some saying this coddles the players, some saying the risks of getting hit by a fastball or a line drive or colliding with another player are all part of the sport and should stay that way. But if the MLB gets its way, home plate collisions will soon go the way of the spitball. The mascots for the schools in today's roll call definitely have a major league flavor. First up at bat are the Cubs from Alcester Hudson High School in South Dakota. Next location to pop up is Loveland, Ohio, home of the Tigers from Loveland High. And hitting cleanup, the Marcy Marlins from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Cubs, Tigers, Marlins, and now the roll call is out.
Is this legit? George W. Bush was the 43rd person to be U.S. president. Not true. There were 41 people to be president before him. Grover Cleveland is counted twice since he served non-consecutive terms. That's why President Bush is considered the 43rd president.
Cade Foster is also number 43. That's his jersey number. Foster is a kicker for the University of Alabama football team. In a recent rivalry game, Foster missed 2 field goals and had another blocked. Got a lot of criticism, some of it very harsh, but he also got some encouragement from former President George W. Bush. Foster posted this letter on Instagram. It says, quote, "Dear Cade, number 43, life has its setbacks, I know. However, you will be a stronger human with time. I wish you all the best. Sincerely, another 43. Foster said he'd be framing the handwritten note when he shared it on social media. Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus, right down Santa Claus Lane, come on. Apparently he brought a bunch of his friends. These Santas opted for skis or snowboards, while this one seems to have upgraded from Santa's usual sleigh. Who needs reindeer when you've got horsepower? And ho, ho, hold the boat, because Scuba Santa wants to dive in and make a splash in this segment. Did you know SCUBA is an acronym? Stands for Santa Contained Underwater Breathing Apparatus. Ah, Santa puns. They slay me, and we squeeze them in just in the nick of time. 2013 is almost over. We want to know what you think were the biggest stories of the year. If you're already on Facebook, go to facebook.com/CNN Student News this weekend. Tell us your pick for the top story of 2013. Have a great weekend.